Okay, this is part 2 of brushes in Illustrator, and in this module I want to go through how to ink an object or ink a drawing. So let's say you have an illustration or a sketch that you've done you want to incorporate into your design, and you want to be able to ink that so that it looks like it was done with a pen and ink sort of thing, and then you can apply colors to that afterwards. So first thing I need is a sketch. I'm just going to go to File, Place, and I've got a sketch here that I did for an illustration project, so go ahead and place that in there. I'll just work on this tool right now, and maybe the ring around it. So I've placed it in there. You can see that it's raster artwork. The first thing I want to do is create a layer just for this piece. So I'm going to call this sketch. And I want to make this a template layer. And what that's going to do is lock it, and it's going to make it a little less contrasty so that it feels like sort of a background that I'm sketching on top of. And you can see right now the pencil with the slash comes up telling me that I can't do anything on this layer. So that means I need to make a new layer. And I'll call this one ink. So this is the process for digitally inking your artwork. And regardless of whether you're going to color this in Photoshop or Illustrator, I'd strongly suggest you use Illustrator to do your inking. It's really powerful for this particular thing. So to start off with, I need to select a brush that I want to work with. Okay, that one's obviously not going to work. Let's try this one. Is that going to do what I want? No, I don't want my lines to be that thick. It looks like I'm going to have to make something for myself. So I'm going to go into my brushes palette and say New Brush. I'm going to create a calligraphic brush. And I want to keep it as a round nib point, no distortion. And I want it to be pretty small. That one was a 5 point that I just pulled up, so it seems like I need something smaller than that. Let's try a 2 point. And I want to have pressure sensitivity so that I take advantage of the tablet that I'm using, and change the variation to 2 point. And I'm going to simply call this brush 2 point. While I'm at this, I'm going to go ahead and make me a couple more brushes. New brush, calligraphic brush. I'll call this one 3 point. Pressure, variation of 3, okay. And one more. Bigger one just in case I need something a little larger. Okay, so now I've got a series of brushes. This is what the 5 point looks like, this is what the 3 point looks like, and this is what the 2 point looks like. Approximately the same pressure. Okay, so to ink something in Illustrator, I'm simply going to grab my small brush right now and begin coming in here. And it really is just like using a real ink nib, if any of you have ever done that, except a lot less messy. I'm not being extraordinarily careful right now, but this is the way I would go about this. I'm taking advantage of the pressure sensitivity that the tablet offers, and selectively making things thicker or thinner based on angle and shadow. That was an arrow. I don't think I wanted that in there. So this is the way I would approach doing an inking job working in Illustrator. And you can see right now that this is simply creating vector lines, just like all the other brushes do. So what I want to do now is to show you the difference between this brush that creates those vector lines and the blob brush. So I'm going to select these, just move them over a little bit. Do that same thing again, except this time I'm simply going to use the blob brush instead. Same brush, tool, looks the same, has the same options as far as fidelity and smoothness are concerned if I were to double click on the brushes. So I'll show you that. So same exact settings that you have, not same exact settings, but you have very similar settings. So again, I'm not doing a really great job right now as I'm simply trying to illustrate a point. Normally I would spend a lot more time to do this. I can see I'm not really happy with the fidelity settings, so I'm going to turn that down to 1. It was changing my brush direction in a way that I did not like. Okay. Just a little bit more here. Just do this quickly. Not going to be beautiful, but you'll get the idea. Do roughly the same amount. Okay. So you can see with the blob brush I was doing pretty much the same thing. I'm using the brush to thick and thin, make thick and thin points, thick and thin lines. But here's the difference. If I hit Command Y, notice what I get. So what the blob brush is actually doing when I'm drawing is it's creating an outline of the vector rather than putting the vector around the line. And there are some couple advantages to that. One advantage is no matter what happens with your settings, you're going to be able to scale this artwork up or down, move it into Photoshop or any other place. You could use it in something like Cinema 4D to extrude it as a 3D shape. Whatever you're drawing in here automatically becomes connected lines. If I fill this in, it's going to seal that up. If I did that same sort of thing with this paintbrush, you're going to see it on the screen, but when I let go, I don't see it anymore because I'm in outline mode. And if I tried to fill that in, I'm simply getting this wavy line. So I'll go back to standard mode so you can see the difference again. Let me go ahead and fill that in just to illustrate it. So here's something that's nice that I can do with the standard brushes. Once they're done, I can come in here now and change the point size and change the thickness of that brush. I can make this 0.5. I can make it 2, 3, 4. I can change this all I want to. If I decided one of these lines was a little too thick, I could come in here and make that one just a little bit thinner. Maybe 0.5 would be better. So that's something you can do with the standard brush that you completely lose with this one. Once I've drawn with the blob brush, what I have is what I have. So keep in mind that they both sort of have different purposes depending on what you're trying to do. If you want to use something that you're going to ink and simply bring that work into Photoshop to color, I'd really strongly think about using the blob brush. Again, the standard brush is really nice if you want to maintain that editability of your object. So that's the difference between the blob brush and the regular brush, and a little demonstration of how to ink an object.